Welcome to Amplifying Wellness with TLC. This is a podcast where we dedicate to your self-care and wellness. We will be sharing guest stories, information, and tips on how to live healthier and happier lives. We are Twin Life Coaching and Business Services with your hosts, myself, Tara Lehman, and Barb Schutz. We care about increasing awareness around self-care and mental health through this podcast, coaching, workshops, and more. To find out all about all of our services and our community, please visit twinlifecoaching.ca. As a reminder, this podcast is for sharing of stories and information only and is not intended to be or replace any medical advice that you are seeking or have received.
Thank you, Tara. So today we're joined by our guest, Daphne Wells, all the way from New Zealand, as we just found out. So welcome, Daphne. Daphne is an intuitive success and positive intelligence coach who helps midlife women create far-reaching ripples of impact and riches they long for with ease and flow. Welcome to the show, Daphne.
Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Tara. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we like to start our show with you taking a minute to share your background in wellness and self-care, maybe a little bit about what it is that you do.
Well, I come from a background of overgiving and not caring for myself, ignoring myself. And I kind of had a moment when I was a mum to 4 children, and my mum, who was younger than me at that stage, was having 2 hips replaced.
Wow.
And she essentially was really an old lady. And I thought to myself, I do not want to be that. What do I do instead? And so that started off for me getting really focused on making a habit of exercise, sport, and exercise had never been a high priority for me as a kid. I was the fat kid who never did anything like that. Always picked last for sports teams. And so I started walking every morning, like when I was no longer breastfeeding him, I thought I may as well get up now, go out for a walk while everyone's still asleep. And so that's become he's 32 now. What started off as, a 15, 20 minute, I get this little space of time is now like this morning, it was 2 hours.
Oh, good for you.
And I've added in other things. So that started off really my journey of wellness and actually putting a little bit of time for me in each day.
That's great.
Wow.
That's
so
great.
I guess
Wonderful.
And I guess we're wanting to focus a little bit on mindset. So I'm wondering, Daphne, if you can tell us why that topic of positive mindset from a mental physical, positive intelligence perspective is so important to you. Obviously, it started a long time ago.
Yeah. So I come from and I love my parents dearly. They're both gone now. However, I'm not criticizing them. This is how it was. It was a very limited mindset, very scarcity focused childhood, and parents who'd grown up in the Depression and the war, and that was kind of normal. And so there were very limited opportunities for me as a child, and I wanted to expand that for my children. So I kind of had raised them to believe they could do anything they chose in life as long as they were treating other people well in the process and being responsible adults. And then I realized that I thought that was possible for them and not for me. So what did I need to do? And that started off this journey of mindset, self-development work. And a lot of that revolved around, in the initial stages, the teachings I was receiving. And like this is back in the day where, small town New Zealand, nobody talked about stuff like that. I was kind of researching books and online was in its infancy. And so it was about journaling and affirmations and all this. And then when things didn't kind of work out how I wanted them to, I'd berate myself. Well, I didn't say the right affirmations. I didn't do enough journaling. I didn't, I wasn't enough was the repeating story through my life. And so that kind of like I've been on a real journey of healing and transformation. I look back and, I'm like, I love you dearly, Daphne, of all those decades ago, and we are not her anymore, thankfully. When I met up with mental fitness and positive intelligence, I was like, oh, do I really need another modality in my tool belt? Do I really need to learn another thing? And yet one of my dear friends was intrigued about it, and it required a few people in a group going in together to work on it together. And I thought, well, I trust her, I love her, why not? And it literally flipped that have I not done enough on its head, because what I've learned is that our brain is a muscle, right? I mean, we know this, right? And it automatically fires in the negative, because back in the days of saber-toothed tigers, we needed it too.
Yeah.
And so brain will automatically go that way. Those are where our well-worn neural pathways are. Our brain can only support so many neural pathways. So what happens is, like with any muscle, when we're not using it, it atrophies. I think back to a few years ago, I broke my wrist and I just about fainted when they took the cast off it, because my arm looked like a 90-year-old woman's. And I'd been lifting weights and, it was like, and that was really like, wow, this is what happens when we don't use muscles. So if you think about it from our brain, we've got our negative survival saboteur region. We've got our positive, sage, wise, intuitive region. And if we're using the negative all the time, this one's atrophying. So what we can do through mental fitness exercises, like you go to the gym, you don't just go there once. Like I didn't automatically lose all my weight from years of, having children with one walk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
that repetition. And same with our brains, so mental fitness is, we can do it really, really quickly by doing what we call PQ reps regularly through the day. And then your brain automatically begins you respond positively more than you react negatively, because you're building those neural pathways. And I have found personally that it's been so freeing to, in the moment where I feel I'm going to slip into that negative, to do some PQ reps, interrupt that brain, because you've got this region in your brain, which is your control. If you think about your control center, your command center, self-command center. So which way are you going to go? Are you going to take control, or are you going to let that saboteur region run your life? And you get to flip it by doing some PQ reps.
I love that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, what sort of PQ reps do you do? Sorry.
There are all different kinds. I love that you asked that question, Barb, that work with all of our senses, because some of us end up with ones that are more a go-to than others. One of my personal favorites is, if you close your eyes for a moment and rub your fingertips together with such attention that you can feel the ridges on your fingertips. And when those thoughts come back into your mind, just focus on your fingertips and feeling those ridges.
That's an interesting, I like that, because there's so many things that can interrupt those negative mindsets. And you talked about earlier, journaling and stuff like that isn't for everybody at all, right? It can be very helpful for some, and I think we would all agree to that. But having these,
and I'm not criticizing it. I still do. What I'm saying is what I meant was have I done enough? Have I?
Yeah. And I like this little interruption that you're doing, even with the fingertips, like just something that you can stop that negative thought process. from taking over, so to speak.
Also, I love that one particularly because you can use it like if you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody or a meeting and you're getting really stressed and things are spiraling downward, you can do that under the table with your eyes open.
Yeah.
That no one even knows. What you're doing is actually taking control of how you're going to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the more that you do it, the more quickly you can shut those negative thoughts out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like
That's a
that.
great idea.
Yeah. I want to just ask, no, that's fine. I just want to ask, when it comes to your client base, people that you talk to about these things, what are some of the challenges that they come to you for that this can help? Is it general negativity thoughts? Is it just other things? Like, what are some of those challenges they bring to you that this can help?
So a lot of the time it's about, how do I make the progress I want to in life because I keep thinking I'm not good enough.
Right.
And I don't have, the old perfectionism. Is it good enough to share? Do I need another certification? Is what I can help people with actually worthwhile? Does anyone want it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I charge money for it? If you think about all of those negative things that kind of stop us sharing what I call our magical gifts with the world. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that we all come into the world with gifts to share. The other things that come so naturally to us that we wonder why everyone else can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So along with that comes this, can I charge money for it? Will people value it? Because it's so easy for us in a way because it comes so naturally and it's meant to be like that. And my response to that is that when we actually allow ourselves to ask for money for it, we can replace our job and therefore we can help more people because we're freeing up all of that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
That's great. So you talked about, like the finger rubbing. I've done under the table kind of tapping, very quietly tapping the top of each of my legs when I'm feeling, say, anxious. But what other tools, what other suggestions would you have, or do you give some of your clients? Like, I love that idea of the fingertips. What's some of your other favorites?
One of my other favorites is to focus on something in the distance. When you're looking out a window and actually focus on it so much that you're seeing the detail in it.
Okay.
Using the senses again, almost.
Yeah. And another one is to really listen to the sounds. So what is the farthest away sound you can hear? And really focus on that. And then what is the closest sound you can hear? And if it's not your own breathing, then listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually just giving yourself the space to really get back in your body, which takes us, because we live so much of our life in our head, don't we?
We do. Yeah. We do.
And when we can get into our physical body and out of that negative side of our brain, I mean, we do need that, right? We need to know that if we put our hands on the stove, it's hot. We need to feel that heat. How long do you want to leave your hand there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it a flash of warning or is it my hands burn?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to touch back on something you'd mentioned previously about perfectionism. And it's something that, I wish the word perfect sometimes didn't exist. Because when we reach for perfectionism, we can get those negative mindsets that you're talking about, right? Because we feel like it needs to be better. I mean, I just recently was talking to a client that's trying to finish a book and is not happy and is editing and editing and editing. And I said, are you going for perfect or are you going for good? And she said, perfect. And I said, there's no such thing. You can improve everything all the time. And I think this really speaks to interrupting the negative mindset that you're referring to, because there is no perfect, accept that you're having it, but interrupt it, right? What are your thoughts on that, about the whole idea of perfect?
Perfect changes as we do. As we grow and form, what is acceptable for us changes.
Absolutely.
And the book scenario is we've all read books by world famous authors who make a massive living from their books. There are typos in those books.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and I mean, I've written books too, and there comes a point where how many more times are you editing this before you send it off to somebody else for them to have a look at it?
Exactly. So I want to touch on workplaces real quick, because we know in workplaces, negative mindset is a big problem in a lot of places. I'm not saying everywhere, but it can definitely come into the workplace, not just at your personal life. What are your thoughts about using some of these tools in the workplace, or how workplaces should even handle these types of negative mindsets with the tools that you teach?
Absolutely amazing to work with teams and workplaces, because what happens is we become critical. With that negative mindset allows space for criticism of our co-workers. And when you do this work, you accept that everybody is different and we all have our own failings, and you actually see everybody rise together. And what happens is that it does maximize your productivity, your well-being, and your relationships all at once.
I love it.
From a workplace perspective, given that, there is a need for workplaces to focus not just on productivity and performance, on their employees' well-being.
Which can increase that.
Exactly. Well, you get, like I say, when you put positive intelligence, mental fitness, you get everybody in your team doing this work, and everybody rises together. Everybody gets better. They all feel better about what they're doing. They all are more productive. They perform better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I could see that would go from work to home. If the workplace is the one that's helping teach that, then you take that positive mindset home because you felt that all day at work.
Of course you do. And we all know there's that mirror neurons, that contagion effect that happens. So, if somebody negative comes into the room, it's very easy, if other people are that way inclined, for the whole room to spiral downwards.
Yeah.
If you choose to be around positive people, everybody's more positive. So you then take that positive. Like, imagine going home from work saying, "Oh, horrible day. Everybody did this, that, and the other thing was wrong," versus, "Had a great day. How was yours, honey?"
Different. It feels different.
It feels different. And we all know that it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel with what you say that makes the difference. So doing this really infiltrates every area of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's so important, for sure. So if you were talking to any of your clients or even our audience, what would be one of the tips that you would give people that they can use every day?
Fingertips and the matter of pausing before you're going to react.
I like it.
Am I going to react, or am I going to pause and choose my response?
I think
that's pausing. Yeah, I like the pausing idea too, because if it is something that's impactful, it could be a fight or flight moment, and you need to take a break to help your brain refocus. So maybe even the fingertips comes into play at the same time.
Your fingertips at the same time, then you get to choose how you respond, and that has a powerful impact. One of my clients who's done this work was in the habit of lashing out, flying off the handle when she got really stressed in situations at work and at home. Doing this changed all of that.
Good. Oh, I love those feel-good stories.
A point where, all of her workplace team hadn't done it. She's done it on her own with me. And people were, waiting for her to lash out, respond negatively. And of course she didn't. And, so that, to me, it's just so powerful.
Yeah. And hopefully contagious.
Yeah, that's great, because now her coworkers are probably seeing that and doing the same.
Yeah. Well, they're seeing that. Amazing. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, exactly. Very intrigued. What happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I love the tools that you shared today. I think when it comes to negative versus positive mindsets, there's so many different tools out there, but these ones are very unique, and I like them very much. So thank you for sharing that today.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to share. More people who know, the better.
Exactly. Positive. If anybody in our audience today wanted to learn more about what you do or how to get a hold of you, is there somewhere online they can go?
Yeah, so I'm on all of the I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and my website is my name, daphnewells.com. So relatively easy to find online.
And just so everybody knows how to spell her name, it's Daphne, and then Wells is Wells. Thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. We also want to thank our listeners for joining us today. We can't wait to bring you more from our Amplifying Your Wellness with our guests who share stories, challenges, wins, and tips to help you on your self-care journey. And as always, we want to remind everyone of our Amplifying Your Wellness with TLC community. This is a great place to find support for everything you need to bring your self-care into your own life. To find out more about this community and all of our services, again, you can visit us at midlifecoaching.ca. Until next time, remember, you've got this.